Hello, everybody. I am Kimberly Gordon. I'm the Senior Director of Cultural Arts and Adult Programs at the Peninsula Jewish Community Center. We're in Foster City, California. Welcome to this morning's look inside the exhibition, Artists on Anti-Semitism, now in its third iteration. While I do a few more opening remarks, I am actually going to share a video recording of our gallery space. So I'll press play and share. Great. And so you see, you probably don't see, it went very quickly through the lobby, but we always introduce our gallery exhibits in the lobby. We do this intentionally. We have a lot of people who walk in our space from both directions, and we have a large intro panel at the lobby to catch anybody who's going swimming or to the pool. We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see what the exhibit is up. We always have them up seasonally. This is what you're seeing now is along our major corridor. This is called our Corrette Hallway, and that is right on our first floor. And so again, this is a public space that is free and open to the public. We do it this way on purpose. So that's how we have our banner to introduce our show and create a sense of space. We do it this way on purpose. We feel like it really emphasizes the J in the JCC and allows us to have a Jewish ambiance. We also find that it is a catalyst for conversation and often anchors thematic programming. Sometimes we bring on-site student groups that are in our after-school program, even our preschool and our Jewish day school on site to do activities and engage with the art. This particular exhibit is open at the PJCC through March 25th and then travels to the Osher Marin JCC. So we'll be in Osher Marin at Marin in San Rafael in the spring. Today, we're just about to wrap up this portion of the gallery. I love that you can enter it from either side our gallery. So we have some people, you'll see a door right at the end of that hallway that connects to the preschool portion of our campus and Jewish day school. So we have a double-sided banner because we don't know which way people will enter it. And so yes, here's a still of the lobby. I know that went very quickly when we first started, and that's how we always introduce our shows. The intro panel can also be found on our website if you want a way to going down that. And then, so today we have an opportunity.
Oops, sorry.
To learn about, we're just going to mute, to learn about how this exhibition came to be and take a closer look at a few selected works that employ a range of media and approach to the topic. We are fortunate to be joined by five, I think, that we're going to hear from today, curators and artists. Yona Verers, who first approached me about the West Coast showing, and she is the founding director of Jewish Art Salon and also has a work in the show. We're also joined by Hannah Eve Rothbard, who's the director of 81 Leonard Gallery, and Nancy Pantier, who's the artist and owner of 81 Leonard Gallery, where the first iteration of Artists on Antisemitism showed over the summer, and Judith Joseph, whose work is not in our exhibit, but is currently on display at another iteration of Artists on Antisemitism, which is just opened in Long Island earlier this week, I think, very recently, or last week. So we'll get to see some works in that exhibit as well. Please feel free to type any questions you have along the way into the chat, or we'll have time at the end to open for an open-ended Q&A. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today and for your interest in this topic. And now I am going to pass it over to Hannah Rothbard, who will get us started.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining. This is really awesome to connect with you. I'm tuning in from Berlin, and we have people on the East Coast and the West Coast. So This is exactly what we wanted to do with this exhibition and engage this dialogue around the world. So to talk about how the exhibition came together, originally Nancy and I were wanting to do something to respond to the rise in anti-Semitism in the wake of October 7th, and feeling like we couldn't make a political statement per se. We didn't want to put our space in danger, and we were seeing all the backlash that was happening in the art world. So ultimately we decided that a conversation on anti-Semitism felt important, but also kind of safe, and landed on this idea that anti-Semitism is an age-old issue. And so having people engage, enter our space, without bringing this political baggage. That was kind of the goal, because we are a contemporary art gallery in Tribeca, not necessarily a Jewish space. So most of the people that come into our space are not Jewish, actually. So we had teamed up with Jewish Art Salon, who were also looking for something to do, looking to do both an October 7th show and something specifically about anti-Semitism. And so we felt that we could be the venue to talk specifically about artists' responses to anti-Semitism, how they were personally grappling with it. And that was, so we put out an open call to Jewish Art Salon members, and we invited individual artists in our network to apply as well. And we curated the selection from there. And once again, with artists from ages 25 to 81, we were able to reinforce this idea that anti-Semitism is age old, and it didn't start with October 7th. And anyone coming into our space can't necessarily tie it to just the conflict. But we did want to bring awareness to the fact that anti-Semitism is very much on the rise. And while some of the works are a response to October 7th, there's works that respond to the Holocaust and to Jewish life in Ukraine, and a wide range of other topics and expressions. And I will turn it over to Yona to talk about how our exhibition became a traveling exhibition.
Hey, thank you, Hannah. And by the way, Hannah is joining us from Berlin, Germany. She's on a Fulbright right now. Okay, so after the show was at the 81 Leonard Gallery, we were looking into ways to travel it. And first it went to an exhibition in Long Island at the Hyams Museum. It's a very large venue, so we had to add some work to it. And then it went to the show where it's up now. I'm going to share my screen with you, just quickly show some images. Slideshow. Okay, so these are images taken from the opening. So I'm just showing you a few images that we had to add that we haven't seen before. So this is, on the left is Toby Kahn's piece. It kind of, some of us it will remind us of the Ku Klux Klan, but he just wants to suggest a possibility of loss, an abrupt reversal of safety. To the next is Joel Silverstein's work, which is about the golem, the idea that Jews are now the new untouchables. The next slides are two of the three works by Archie Rand. This is his Deborah diptych, and it's about Deborah, who was a prophetess and who single-handedly took 10,000 men to battle against an enemy way back. So it shows really the strength of the Jewish people. This is, this work was actually in the exhibition previously. To the left is the work of Dorit Jordan Dotan, based on the Documenta in Kassel, a large exhibition which was rife with anti-Semitism. To the left here are three little panels by Siona Benjamin, which was based on a legend about Esther, and she superimposed the see, hear, speak symbol on each of the images. And to the right is a piece by Efrat Bader Moses, which is about the pervasive impact of anti-Semitism through its symbolic use of historical markers. Oh, sorry, I'm in Nancy's piece. So the current exhibition is at the Suffolk YJCC. It's physically the largest JCC in the United States. The curator of the Hyams Museum is also the curator of this museum. And the opening, which was last week, started off with, we all gathered around the Yellow Piano, which is a project based on a pianist, a 22-year-old pianist, Alon, I'm trying to remember his last name now, Ohel. He was kidnapped from the October 7th Nova Festival, and in an effort to draw attention to a situation and the plight of the hostages, the Yellow Piano was in, in Tel Aviv and has been traveling, not the actual piano, but the project has been traveling all over the world. And after that, we went to see the exhibition. That's pretty much it. We are moving on to the next speaker, which is Nancy Pantier.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming and joining us. My piece is called Ashes Chayil, and if you zoom in, it is the prayer or the poem Ashes Chayil, depending how you look at it. And it's clearly parts of a woman that suffered and reflects about the women that were violated and destroyed and killed and everything that happened to them on October 7th that was discussed and shown and clearly upsetting to every human being and women, and something that happens with the violence of women in the world during war. And I was most interested in showing that there's a mirror in the piece, fragmented pieces of mirror, so people could see when they looked at this piece that it's very personal. It could be your mother, your daughter, your sister, a female friend, or yourself. So you can see reflected in some of those pieces of broken mirror yourself, or think of those. The dismembered foot hanging is wrapped with yahrzeit candle coverings, papers that I took off yahrzeit candles to dangle. And the top right of the piece is stones as if you lay on a grave. And the outline of the body is marked like a murder scene. And the body is covered with a caution tape. And the name of the piece is Ashes Chayil, so it speaks about the honored woman and the woman of the woman the woman of I'm losing my words. It praises women, the women of honor. So basically it was a very personal speaking about the violation of everybody, but there was such a sensationalism about what they did to our Jewish women. So basically, that is what my piece was about. It was about horror and anger and trying to honor these people by putting stones on their grave, because we don't have these people back yet. We have some, and we have some that are not, and we don't know about the others. So that is what my piece was about. It was a reaction. This is Goldie's piece. And this is a piece that talks about the Brooklyn Museum that was violated when they had nothing, no reason to, but they were the directors that were, I believe they were the directors, that they just were, their homes were sprayed with spray paint for no apparent reason other than it was an anti-Semitic expression. Anti-Zionist, and they were just Jewish, which is why they had their homes basically tar and feathered. But it wasn't, it was metamorphically tar and feathered and spray painted with red. So that is Goldie's version of it on her cell phone. And if there are any questions, this is one of my favorite pieces because we live in New York. And if you live in New York and right after October 7th, there's a lot of outward anti-Semitic, pro-Palestinian marches that were frightening. And if you're an everyday person in New York and you wear your Jewish symbols on your neck, as Goldie's wearing her name in Hebrew, when you go into certain places, you tuck them underneath your shirt. And it's somewhat of a compromise and somewhat of a moment when you realize that you are in danger. that you are targeted. And I thought it was extremely effective. So she was in that show and was wonderful. It was quite apparent what she was saying. Hannah?
So this is my piece, Bust of Larry David, and it's kind of a riff on the art historical trope of the bust of King David, which Michelangelo and many other artists have visited across time. And so I wanted to reference antiquities to kind of make this point of something I've been thinking about a lot, which is it feels like the end of the golden age of American Jewry and icons like that have been mainstream Jewish cultural icons. People like Larry David and other entertainers have popularized Jewish culture and made it mainstream. And I wonder who will our next generation of icons be, and will Americans have the same taste for Jewish culture amidst this rise in anti-Semitism? And this piece is Isaac Ben Aharon's portrait of the ambassador, Deborah Lipstadt. She was appointed by President Biden to that position for her work combating anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial. And she actually came to visit our gallery, which I'll show you in the next picture. But yeah, it's a beautiful portrait and homage to a different icon for Jewish people, someone who fights for us, a true hero. And I think it's a really interesting dialogue with my work where I'm thinking about almost the fading of icons. And this is a great example of someone who is a contemporary icon and, if anything, made mainstream by Biden, appointing her to this high position and taking anti-Semitism as the important issue that it is. And this is the photo from the exhibition at our gallery over the summer where she came to visit, and it was wonderful. And yeah.
This is my piece. I wanted to make a piece about Jewish strength. It had been like a really difficult time for all of us. So I wanted to emphasize this is from a series called Kabbalah of Bling. And this piece resembles basically an oversized Star of David necklace. It's actually something you could wear. Like the original is at the San Francisco Gallery right now. I had a print in the other
Got
show.
interested, but you know how you get.
Sorry, if you could mute if you're not speaking. Sorry, Anna. Go ahead.
No problem. And I was thinking of those rappers like Flavor Flav who wears these huge clocks around his neck. So this is something you could actually take off the wall and wear if you wanted to, as a huge, huge amulet. So on one hand, it reminds us of the yellow star that we Jews were forced to wear during the Nazi times. But on the other hand, it's an amulet. So it's a bit of an armor shield, and it reminds us to be strong in these times. This is a piece by Lenore Mizrahi Cohen. The title is Isolation, Loneliness, Then Worry. It's from 2024, and it's mixed media. Lenore is from Syrian descent, so one of the languages she grew up with was Arabic. And in this work, she uses two opposing words in Arabic, which highlight the psychological push and pull that's always been at play for Jewish people. I'm basically reading what she wrote. It's about the unique position we currently find ourselves in the wake of October 7. She fuses the Arabic synonyms them and worry into one word. It speaks to another aspect of anti-Semitism and the insecurity it causes. Keeping the company of others comes with their expectations of us or their actions against us. Perhaps he would prefer to be left alone if the alternative carries sinister undertones of constant threat, explicitly expressed or otherwise. After October 7th, we are now reminded that anti-Semitism wasn't gone, but merely sleeping. As Jews, we have long considered ourselves members of the secular society in which we live. How do we grapple with this emotional reality which we can no longer ignore? So this artwork uses specific hand-scripted arrangements of these words and a specific placement of them on the picture plane to convey this deeply sinister force on the lives of Jews elsewhere. Will we be swallowed by the maw of others and their plans for us, the dangers they represent? Or will we stand alone while somehow blazing a trail out of the darkness that is closing in? Here's a detail. So on one hand, as a Jewish person, it's isolating to see that we're on the opposite side of a wall from everyone else. On our own path, concerned with our own issues and protective of our safety, we're frequently unable to relate to the societies we live in. Even when we think we have, history and the mob will find a way to remind us how isolated and alone we really are. So that is Lenore's work. So now I'm going to talk about another artist, Leah Raab from Israel. This you're all familiar, I assume, with the space in Yad Vashem. It's a room full of portraits of people entirely wiped out because of anti-Semitism. This is one of two paintings that Leah made about, inspired by this room. It's called Memories. Her painting is a memorial mirroring the Hall of Names at Yad Vashem. Each portrait is a real person, not just a number. And then the additional shapes below symbolize dark images of the Holocaust. She painted scenes and figures using distorted perspectives to create a heightened sense of disorientation, with elements disrupting the normalcy. These unconventional and off-kilter angles create a sense of unease and terror. Today, more than ever, we must not let history repeat itself. We must not forget or forgive the atrocities and never allow it to happen again. Now, this particular painting is in San Francisco, and this was the painting that she had at the 81 Leonard Gallery. So it's a different version. Painting was sold, so we put in the other painting. And now we are moving to the artist Mira Sassoon. Is she on the call? If not, then maybe Hannah can speak about her work.
I believe
Sure.
she's on the call. I see her name. I see Mira's name. Mira, would you like to unmute and talk about your work? Maybe she's not live with us right now because I don't have her video is off. So I think, yes, Hannah, if she wants to make a Q&A later, but why don't we have.
Hello?
I just heard someone.
Is that Mira?
Mira, is that?
I'm trying. I'm trying. Well, I don't know if I do it right.
You're doing great.
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Mira Sasson, and I create this piece. I use raw. I did it for honoring Holocaust survival, and I use raw materials to symbolize the harsh times that they had. I use thread and wool fiber, and to symbolize the the fiber is like every moment and every decision that we have, and the thread is like the balance between the body and spirit. But we see the image through the fiber, and the most important is that the fiber is loose. I left it loose to I'm sorry, my my speech is my English is not so great, so I have a problem with that. Anyway, I just left the fiber loose in every moment, and every wind can change it. It's like it's about our responsibility to think and to think about our choices and to create better world and to keep the world good for our children, and to I have a problem. I'm sorry.
You're doing
Hannah,
such a
can you
beautiful,
help me?
Mira, you're doing such a beautiful, beautiful job. And even without any words, your art evokes so much emotion and says so much that not a day goes by where somebody doesn't stop me and ask about these pieces. So we appreciate you being with us
Thank
today.
you.
You're very impactful and you spoke beautifully about them. I will change, yeah, go ahead. We'll go ahead and I'm going to spotlight to Hannah if you had anything else to say about these art, or we'll let you go on to the next pieces. But thank you for
Yeah, I
jumping
think
in.
Mira, you did a beautiful job speaking about them. I think the word maybe you were missing that was your word originally from your statement, I remember, was fragility. That the work is very much about fragility, that someone could come over and pick the thread. And so there's the fragility of life, and as well as the responsibility that we have and to teach our children to remember and to take care of our community.
Exactly. Yeah. That our responsibility to create and to keep the world and to teach our kids love and not hate. Yeah, absolutely.
I also would like to say that when you see the work from the side, you can see just how three-dimensional it is. It's amazing how she made all these subtle shades in the shadow and the light on the figures from just different types of fabric, strings strung. I mean, it's just amazing. Okay, our next speaker is Judith, but Judith, you wanted to share the screen by yourself, right? Judith Joseph.
Judith, you're just muted.
Sorry, I was
There you
muted.
go. Now we're with.
I'm Judith Joseph, and I'm going to present a couple woodcuts that I have in the exhibit and Long Island. And like Nancy, one of the things that hit me the most with all the horrors of October 7th was the fate of the young women at the festival, all the rapes and the violence against women. And one of the things that hurt me the most as a woman and a feminist was the absolute silence from women and from feminists around the world. There was nothing. And I had a lot of anger and a lot of just horror about it. And as soon as I saw these images of these people being dragged down into the tunnels, it brought to mind the Greek myth of Hades and Persephone. And Hades was the king of the underworld, and he kidnapped the beautiful young woman, Persephone, and dragged her down to the underworld. And her mother was Demeter, the goddess of grain. And Demeter went searching high and low, and you see her at the top of this image, looking for her daughter, and finally realized that she was in the underworld and appealed to Zeus so that she could be redeemed and brought back. And the Hebrew phrase in the center of this is V'nimshalti im bor, which is from Psalms, and it means I became like them that go down into the pit. And emotionally, this is how I felt for so many days. I couldn't get these people out of my mind, the thought of them being literally buried alive. So that's what the imagery is here. And woodcut really lends itself to this kind of impactful idea because it's black and white. I created it by carving into wood, so it's very cathartic because the wood is strong and there's a lot of pushback. So I really vented a lot of emotion in creating this piece. In the mouth of this young woman is a pomegranate. When Persephone was kidnapped, she ate some food when she was in the underworld. And what that does is it was a rule that if you ate food in the underworld, you were not able to leave it. So she could leave it for half the year, which is when we have spring and summer. And then in the winter, she was forced to go back down. And of course, for Jews, the pomegranate is a very positive image. So for me, I'm kind of expressing the ambivalence of this image. And this is my second woodcut, which is called No Room for Me. And again, there are pomegranate seeds sort of exploding out of the head. And this is a self-portrait of my emotional state following the events of October 7th and feeling for the first time really in my life, personally, anti-Semitism in the world. I feel like I've lived in a bubble my whole life, which is very fortunate. It's one thing to understand things intellectually, but it's another thing to really feel it around you. So this is just the way, this is a self-portrait, really an emotional self-portrait. And I've replaced the pomegranate in the mouth with an apple, which of course goes back to the tree of knowledge. And again, it's a kind of ambivalent symbol. Dark works. It really put me, as it did for so many others, in a very, very dark place. Now, I'd like to speak about the work of Marina Hines. And I included this photo because I had the opportunity to meet Marina at the opening reception at 81 Leonard in New York. She's from LA and I'm in Chicago. And I had a chance to really speak with her about her work. And this is her piece about it called Hitler, which I'm going to get to. This is the piece, and it's a mashup of Kanye West and Hitler. And she kind of combined their faces. And she said that when she did that, they matched incredibly. She didn't have to adjust anything in terms of moving features around, which is kind of eerie. Marina's a very interesting artist. She's a tattoo artist. And in her work, she uses a color, a dye called gentian violet, which is employed in the creation of this work. And gentian violet is very interesting because it is used to stain skin by tattoo artists. It's also used by surgeons to mark skin when they're going to do a surgery. It also has antimicrobial properties. And it's used to stain slides by microbiologists. So it has a kind of a scientific application, and also brings to mind elements of anti-Semitism, because the Jews were perceived in the Holocaust time as a germ, really, an infection of Europe. So it has all these layers of meaning. The surrounding, this is a very large piece, by the way. I think it was like 6 feet tall or more. The elements in the frame are Kanye West's brand of shoes. He worked, I think, with Adidas, and she stains them with this gentian violet, and he's very much in the crosshairs. So again, there's all this kind of layered symbology. Whoops. Now this piece is, looking for the title. Sorry. It's called Fuck You, Francis Galton. And Francis Galton was a scientist who was the sort of invented eugenics, which is kind of a cousin of Darwin, and he was a pioneer of eugenics, which basically used science to justify racism. And I'm sure you've seen the images of Nazis measuring skulls and things like that. So they tried to really justify their racist murder by proving, quote unquote, that Jews were inferior as a race. And all of these images in the center are actually dog whistles. So it's a reference to all the subtle and not so subtle racist and anti-Semitic things that we hear in our culture. You know, you could look at just the last couple of weeks, and you look at Elon Musk and the Nazi salute, which has been argued over, was it or wasn't it? I defy you to go out on the street and do that gesture and see what kind of response you get. That's all the answer I really need about that. So that's what this piece is about. And also she's using the gentian violet again as a dye. And this piece is called Nana Rocks. And in the center is a photo image of her grandmother, Ludmila. And she's surrounded by this, it's almost like an ossuary. It's polymer forms that are like bones. There are bones from 4 skeletons forming the frame, symbolizing the artist's family members who were lost in the Holocaust. And it pays homage to her own family and others who perished in the Holocaust. Also, like Nancy's piece, there are stacked stones. If you look in the center, just in this upper right corner, you see the stacked stones. So it's that feeling of paying homage to the dead and recalling them. And I just want to leave you with this beautiful Jewish face of Ludmila surrounded by tokens of remembrance. This feels so timely as we just observed the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz yesterday. Ludmila stares out at us from the past, reminding us of goodness, of humanity, of family connection, of the humanity of Jewish people. And our Jewishness persists and thrives.
Thank you so much, Judith, for presenting those works. I'll remove the spotlight there. I did hear, we're just so honored that so many of the artists in the show from all over the world came to join us this morning to hear from their fellow artists. Some of their works have been represented by others, but Jeremy Kagan, who's with us today, offered to speak and share his work. So Jeremy, if you're ready to do so, feel free to share screen. We'd love to hear about it.
Right. Well, hi there all. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, it should. There we go. Can you see this piece?
Yes.
Good. First of all, I'm totally honored to be with these other artists whose work is so evocative and emotional and powerful and original that I'm honestly a bit intimidated to even show my piece. As you can see, I'm much more of a caricaturist. I do weekly versions of responses to the parshas of the Torah. I do them every week. This is from, I think, the 5th set. And this piece specifically is called Night Demons. And the idea, obviously, you see, if you look in the mouth of the one on the red, you can see the swastika. That we are often surrounded both by real and unreal terrors. And have to struggle with it. And this is a specific response to that parsha called Bechutai that some of you remember, which is also one about all the negative stuff that can happen to us, and how we need to have an inner strength. The Zohar speaks of that if you can have that inner strength, you can confront all of the devils that are attacking you, both real and unreal. So that's what this piece is about.
Thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate that.
Sure. Thank you for allowing me to even be part of all of this. It's so impressive that the work that everybody's done. So I'm honored to be there.
Hi, everybody. So what we'll do is I'll remove that spotlight. We're back in gallery view so we can all see each other. And I just want to thank all of our presenters today. What a robust program. And thanks so much. I worked specifically with Yona and Hannah to put it all together, and they reached out to other artists. And we're just, it was so generous of you all to spend time with us this morning. Really, it brings adds so much dimension and meaning when people are seeing the work in the gallery. I would love to open it up to any questions. I know we have an inquisitive bunch, and so this is a great time for questions. You can pose them to anybody on our panel. Feel free to use your little Zoom wave hand or just to unmute or put them in the chat. But if anybody has any questions, now is the time. I'll give it a minute. I did not see any in the chat. I tried to keep up with that throughout the presentation and wrote to some people independently, but now would be the time. Oh my gosh, we see Lenore actually painting in her studio. That's so cool. This would be unusual not to have any questions, so I'm going to give it one more minute. We have some thank yous. We have a thank you so much to everyone who contributed. That was really nice. I
I have
guess
a
we.
question for you, Kimberly.
Oh, for me? Yes, sure.
What have the reactions been so far from people? I mean, did people actually approach you with reactions? And if so, what were they?
Yes, so we are getting reactions. Mostly we're getting that it's very meaningful. We're seeing people really take time in some of the pieces. We had a couple of a team of our treehouse teachers. That's our after school program. And they came through. One of them is an artist or did the art for camp and wanted to try to find a curriculum to do an activity or workshop around one or two of the pieces. And so I'm working with that team of teachers to develop something that's age appropriate and interesting. And, we might actually be using your piece as one of those pieces. And one of the ones that was not on display today, but you might have seen very, very quickly, which is of a golem, but it's made out of Lego. And so I think we'll talk some about material and building and protection. And so we're looking for ways in, but it's been fun to talk to different age groups. We had a very inquisitive, I mean, this girl was just, I would peg her at 11 or 12, but boy, she notices things that I could have never noticed in her details. And so we had a really great hallway. I'd never met her before, had a really interesting hallway conversation about some of Carol's pieces and the materials that she used and the details about like, why is the dress blue? She's not in a blue dress. Like it was fascinating. So, so it's really fun to talk to people about whichever piece strikes them. So thanks for that question.
And also, Kimberly, a large part of your audience is actually not Jewish, right?
Yes, so thanks for asking that as well. So we are, like I mentioned, our gallery is free and open to the public. About, I think around 70% of our membership would not identify as Jewish. And we have thousands of people walk through our doors every day. And so this is a real way, the gallery, which rotates exhibits seasonally. So we have 4 shows a year. They are Jewish artists, Jewish themed art, and it's a great way for both education and to engage conversation. So that is the main mission of our gallery. Susan, I saw that you had a question. Do you mind unmuting? Oh, here. You're still muted, Susan. Do you see that? I just did an ask to unmute button.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, my reaction to all of this was how connected all of this art makes Jewish people feel to each other, as far as supporting each other against anti-Semitism, I think is very important. And to feel like you're not alone in it. And I've had many experiences where people didn't know I was Jewish, and said things, and I had to explain to them some things about the Jewish culture in a kind way, but it made me very angry and very kind of isolated. So I think that this is such a wonderful way to express how people feel about anti-Semitism against them and how we can support each other and be connected, because you're all in different places, and that's another aspect of all of this, to support each other in different parts of the world and different parts of the country. So I love what you're doing. It's so important. Thank you.
Fiona, we should have asked Susan to answer that question because she's here almost daily and has seen the exhibit. So thanks for piping in there, Susan. You're a perfect person to speak.
Oh, you're welcome.
That was great. I'm hearing in the chat that we have some other artists here. I didn't even realize Siona was in the room today. So nice that she's joining us. Some of us might remember we had her Blue Like Me exhibit, and she was an artist in residence many years back. So it's nice to have her on the call today. She has a wonderful triptych that was shown in one of Yona's slides as well in the show. Are there any other artists that are here that wanted to say anything about being part of this show? I'm so sorry if I didn't have you speak directly. We weren't sure who was going to be in attendance, but I would certainly leave time for anybody who wanted to say. I see Isaac's in the room. This is great.
I
Oh,
did.
Ruth. Yes, Ruth has that. Ruth, please, Ruth, unmute.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. Yeah. No, I just wanted to say thank you. I am thrilled to be part of the Jewish Art Salon, have been from the beginning, actually. And I just want to express my appreciation for what you all do from Jerusalem, Israel.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. Lenore, yes, of course, we'd love to have you speak. I think I just got a text, so feel free to unmute.
I think I'm unmuted. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Hi everybody. Good to see you all. I just wanted to say thank you to the venue and for Jewish Art Salon for organizing this exhibit and giving all of us this voice and platform because, especially as you mentioned, so much of your membership is non-Jewish identifying. It's especially important to have these voices amplified outside of our own echo chambers, as much as it's important to support each other as well. So thank you for that. And for facilitating all of this. It's just been very, I don't know the word. I guess everyone else feels like a little bit also of that, like being supported in this time, especially as the art world is blacklisting Jewish artists to, yeah, I'm going to keep making what I make and have places to put it, and people will always still give it attention. And like we have our strength in each other. It's a very powerful, important thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Nancy, I see your note. We're going to go to that, but I have one other question from the audience first. So before I
Okay.
put it back over to you, I wanted Eve and Jerry were asking about music. Is there any artist who wants to say, I think their question was, if you could picture any piece or if you were to pick a piece of Jewish music to play in the background while viewing your piece, what might you select? Did anybody want to take that one? Has anybody thought about that? Oh, Jeremy, yes, we just saw your piece.
I thought it was a great question. So immediately I started to look at all of the Jewish songs that I've got on my Spotify to find them out. And as some of you may know, I'm a movie maker. I've made movies like The Chosen and a number of movies on Jewish subjects. And so music is part of my background. But Kinder Jorn, which is it's a Yiddish song about childhood memory. And the idea of the innocence of it, and to contrast the innocence of that with the fear that rises among us, I think that would be sort of an evocative experience.
Excellent answer. And Jeremy also posted in the chat for everyone to see. There's a link that you could get weekly drawings that he does based on Torah readings. So if you are interested in that, feel free to click that link.
Yeah, please do.
Anybody else have an answer to the question about music that might accompany their art? Oh, Lenore, you do? Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I'm sitting here in my collaborative studio here in Brooklyn with a few of my friends who are painting and listening in. And one of them just suggested that I just give a mention because my work is in Arabic. So it's maybe not immediately understood by most people as being Jewish, but as Yona mentioned, I'm of Syrian descent. And of course, I mean, maybe not of course, people don't know that over 50% of Israeli Jews are from Mizrahi, origin. So when we say Jewish music, for me, that always brings up something completely different than maybe in America, people would think about klezmer music or things in Yiddish. And for us, then like when I create a lot of what I create, it's all based in Arabic, and I'll listen to Arabic music a lot, or to get in that creative flow. But specifically Jewish Arabic themed music, there's like a whole lexicon of religious songs that we sing in my community that sounds maybe to outside ears as like purely Arabic music, but they're all taken from Jewish themes and they're in Hebrew. And anyway, I'll put it in the chat. There's a website that links to all of that. It's just if anyone's interested in that kind of thing, then you can explore it.
Thank you so much for answering that question. And you helped me. I think when I was reading it, the word Jewish in the question I was like, what piece of music would you play? And I didn't even think about that qualifier. And so I'm glad you caught on that and addressed that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Siona Benjamin says Balkan beatbox. That's a great answer there too. Great. Nancy, please. You wanted to say something. So
I did. Let's
Yeah.
see. Am I unmuted?
You are.
Great. First, I just wanted to answer that question that they were talking about music because I have a niece who's very religious, and her husband sings to her in his beautiful voice every Friday night the prayer Ishes Chayil. My husband doesn't have a beautiful voice and he doesn't sing to me. But when he sings that to her, it's so beautiful, which is the prayer for honoring the woman which is where the name of my painting is about, or my collage, or whatever you want to, construction. And it's such a beautiful melody and song, and such the antithesis of the violence against the women, October 7th. So that's what I thought about the answer to that piece. But I did want to say clearly that having this show in the studio was very meaningful for us. First of all, after October 7th, everybody felt a strong hit in the heart, the stomach, their being, their Jewishness, their identity, anything that you can use. There were no words for the pain we all felt collectively, individually, questioning everything. October 8th was a day of mourning, of sorrow, of identity, of question. And everyone that came into the studio, everyone that was Jewish, thanked us for having this show. Everyone that was not Jewish spent a lot of time in the show. We had two young men from the show that came in, I believe, from New Zealand that were not Jewish, that literally cried at some of the photographs that they were not aware of. It was extremely obviously personal, meaningful. We had a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Shabbos dinner before the show opened that Yona and Goldie choreographed. And it was all the artists that spoke about what it meant to them. And at that time, many of us were brought to tears. Many of us were very emotional. It was such a raw time, but we were, the time was very, very rare and very raw and very meaningful. And I can only say that probably 80% of the people that came to this show were Jewish, but the people that came to the show that were not Jewish were very moved and very supportive. And it was a very meaningful, necessary show for everybody that came. And I want to thank everyone that joined today, because we need to be together. We need to support each other. And it was something for everyone that came in. And it was important to continue. And thank you for hosting us.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And I wanted just to direct everybody to the chat, because there have been a few other answers to the questions. So I'll let people scroll and read those. Also, I put two related programs. In the beginning, in my introductory remarks, I said how sometimes art can anchor a series of thematic programming. And during the month that it's up. And so we do have at least two related programs that I wanted to call out. For people who are local, we are teaching a Milton class that starts next week. It's a 6-week class on anti-Semitism. And we also have Shabbos Kestenbaum is going to be speaking on March 5th. So those are two related programs that we have. I put links to both of those in the chat. If those are of interest. And again, I invite you to, like I mentioned, the gallery is free and open to the public. You do not need to be a member to join. People can just come to the front desk and say, I'm here to see the art. So feel free to let people in the Bay Area know that this is happening. And I just thank you so much to everybody who joined today. You made the program very special. We did record it, and once it downloads and I get it all, the file, I will send it out to all the registrants. So some people weren't able to join us today, but they'll have a video recording of it as well. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.